This is terrifying. I woke up to find a note on my table. It was written in my handwriting, but I live alone. I tried to convince myself it was a sick joke, but as the day wore on, more and more unsettling things started to happen. Here's one ghost story from my apartment building that I just cut and get out of my head. The discovery. I came home after a long day at work, the kind where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. So all I wanted to do was come home, order takeout, and watch some TV. But when I got home, I noticed a piece of paper on my kitchen table. It was folded neatly like origami and sitting right in the middle of the table. I couldn't remember putting anything out or setting anything out on my table. I didn't have any visitors that day, and I always clean my table off after dinner so it doesn't look like a bomb site. And since I eat dinner at my table every single night, I would have definitely seen something sitting there if it was anything other than this random piece of paper. I approached the table cautiously, half expecting the worst. I don't know why. I just had a really bad feeling about this whole thing. As I reached out to grab the paper, I could feel goosebumps covering my arms. My fingers brushed against the note, and it felt freezing cold. I pulled it open and began to read. Don't ignore me. I've been here longer than you think. My blood ran cold. The handwriting was familiar, almost identical to my own, but not quite. I rubbed my eyes and reread the message, trying to convince myself that what I was seeing was real. My handwriting is messy and inconsistent. It has loops and swirls everywhere and slants wildly in all directions. There are cross lines and dots and arrows and smudges. It's basically a Jackson Pollock painting, and the writing on the note was neat and straight, almost like it had been printed onto the page. Whoever wrote this wasn't left-handed. That was for sure. As I looked closer, I saw a few drops of ink that appeared to be smeared, like someone had grabbed the page and tried to wipe off the ink with their finger. It must have been a kid. I told myself it was probably a kid who snuck into my apartment while I was gone, wrote the note, and then left. I mean, it makes sense, right? What else would make my hair stand on end and send shivers down my spine when I touched the note? The next couple of hours were filled with these strange occurrences that I couldn't explain away with logic or reason. First, the overhead light in the living room flickered violently and then turned off completely. The power must have been out for less than a second because the rest of the lights stayed on, but it was enough for me to see a dark, distorted figure standing in the corner of the room. Before I could focus on him, he was gone. Then I heard a noise in my bedroom, something that sounded like fabric being dragged across the floor. I'm guessing it was a chair. When I went to investigate, everything was in its place and nothing appeared to be out of the ordinary. But when I turned back to leave, the door slammed shut behind me. It swung all the way around its hinges and hit the wall. I wasn't sure if I should laugh or scream, so I ended up doing both. As night fell, the strange events continued. I could hear whispers coming from the closet. At first they were unintelligible murmurs, but then I started to make out individual words. Leave me alone, it hissed. Let me out, it pleaded. The build-up. Unable to sleep, I spent most of the night sitting in my living room, reading and watching TV to distract myself. Occasionally, I'd glance toward the bedroom, waiting for whatever monster lurked inside to emerge. I even considered spending the night in the living room just to have somewhere to hide if whatever was in the bedroom decided to pay me a visit. But I knew that whoever or whatever was in there wasn't going anywhere. It was trapped just like me. In the morning, the sun streamed through the windows, illuminating dust particles floating in the air. I sighed. Maybe it was all in my head. I picked up the note, reread it, and pocketed it. I needed to focus on something more productive than ghosts, like getting rid of the mysterious pile of laundry in my bathtub. But no matter how hard I tried to push it out of my mind, the events of the previous evening kept intruding into my thoughts. For the rest of the day, I found small things out of place, like my TV remote on the windowsill or my shoes under the bed. Then there was the whispering. I started hearing it during the day now, too. Whenever I was alone in the apartment, I could hear it coming from the walls, seeming to surround me on all sides. That night, I brought my phone into the bathroom and locked the door behind me. I figured whatever was haunting my apartment would want to come out and play once the sun went down. And when it did, I started recording. After a while, I started hearing footsteps near the bathroom. They stopped right outside the door. I pressed my ear against the cool surface of the metal. It took me a moment to make out what was on the other side. "Don't listen to him," it whispered. "He's not real. Just pretend I'm not here. Pretend I never existed. You'll be safe." Don't listen to him. When I turned around, the room was empty. All my toiletries were still sitting on the counter where I'd left them, and the water in the sink hadn't even run. I played the recording back, but all I could hear was my own panicked breathing. I searched the entire apartment, but there was no sign of anyone having broken in. And the only thing I could think of was that I was losing my mind, the climax. Exhausted, I crawled into bed and tried to sleep, but the whispering continued all night long. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And then I heard the distinct sound of footsteps on my ceiling. Footsteps. What was that? Was I dreaming? Was I insane? When I woke up, sunlight was pouring through the gaps in the curtains. I sat up in bed and listened intently. Silence. Whatever had been tormenting me throughout the night was gone. I stumbled out of bed and walked to the kitchen. I poured myself a cup of coffee and brought it back to my room. I had to do something. I couldn't stay in my apartment like this. Not knowing what was going on was driving me crazy. I decided to confront whatever was in my apartment. Maybe I'd finally get some answers. I stepped into the closet and stared at the rows of hanging clothes. I called out, "Who's there?" No answer. I opened the linen closet. The same. I checked under the bed and behind the curtains. Nothing. I turned to leave, and that's when I saw it. The note was on my bed. It hadn't been there before. It was folded the same way as before and sat innocently in the middle of my bed like it was waiting for me. The message read, "You can't hide. You can't escape. I'm everywhere. You're never safe." The twist. In the morning, the note was gone. Or was it? Maybe it's still there, watching me, waiting for me to turn around. Hey, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you enjoyed this story, then check out more content. Thanks for watching.